This is my first published video with this NBN deck. I've played it more than several times in the past on Octagon, but most of the games were pretty pointless because they ended with very stupid defeats by me, or I was playing against runners that were running recklessly without even considering the possibility of there being a Scorch in my deck. So all these games are not worth uploading. I've made some tweaks and changes through my experiences with those games, so I think this deck is pretty refined as it is. I like it quite a bit. Now here I make the first mistake. I choose not to rest the Foundry on HQ and allow him to score the build. I didn't want to rest the Foundry because I know he's running a Count Siphon and I don't want him to pull a fast one on me. I don't want him to know what the ice is over my HQ. At the same token, the chances of him hitting that build was 1 in 4. So I took a gamble, and hopefully by letting him through, I am showing a gesture that there are no agendas in my hand, stop running my HQ. But he persists, so I have to keep him out. And I realize it's pretty stupid to let him in anyway because he's running Desperado and now John Masanori, so I want to keep him out as far as possible. So he's getting massive click efficiency, and I find hedge fund, which is great. I made it a point to solidify my HQ because anytime a York or any decoder for the matter hits the table, I'm going to get siphoned down to death. And I'm not prepared to deal with a siphon just yet because I haven't drawn any of my 3 Scorched Earths. Yes, there are 3 Scorched Earths in this deck, and instead I see the 2 sea sources, which I definitely don't need at this point. So, big problems all about. I drawn into more ice. I was really hoping to see a cheap end run ice, wrap around, or Convery, or Draco, but instead I get these big lumps of sentries. Now, these sentries are meant to guarantee my late game. All of them are tracers, and they go well with my Chilo City Grid, which is the entire centerpiece of this deck. I'm going to use Chilo City Grid to force the runner to gain tax. Awesome, huh? Well, not really. I don't need it so early on, and I certainly don't want to spend a flare to protect my archives. That is a huge waste of a flare, and I probably wouldn't raise it if he security tested archives anyway. I baited him into running the remote server because I'm, sensitivity grid. But he seems very disinterested in my remote server. I think that is... I'm not sure why. Against NBN, would you not want to run the remote server? I don't think I've shown that I run Chilo City Grid yet, so how could he assume that that wasn't a Sensen that he had to trash? I don't know. The very fact that I'm protecting it so tightly should be an indication that something needs to be done about the server, but he doesn't seem to care. Well, he gets an overmind out, so... And I find my Scorched Earth, so thank goodness. Now I put the flare on archives in hopes that it will deter him from security testing, but I don't think it will because he has 16 credits, he's flush on credits, and he has an overmind, so he can get through any piece of ice he wants. So, yeah, come to think of it, putting the flare there wasn't so smart after all. And if I put the flare there, I should be prepared to raise it. But I'm not. As you'll soon see, he's going to run that server and I won't rest the flare because it's going to cost me all my credits. And he just needs to pay 6 to get through. It's going to tax me much more than it taxes him. So that would be a very bad idea. Yeah. I don't know. I think my biggest mistake was setting up the remote server in the hopes that he would waste his time trying to get through the remote server. That was a huge mistake on my part. I should assume that Ken would be running inside jobs, so I mean, it's nice to force out his inside jobs, but that is not really what I need to do right here. What I need to do is to protect all 3 central servers against criminal, so that they cannot get their security testings off. I mean, you can't assume that every single deck runs security testing, but you should prepare against it. yeah, so that was a huge mistake I made. If the wraparound had been on archives, things would have been so much different. He wouldn't have had so many credits right now. And the huge credits are a problem because now I cannot seesaw Scorch him. And now he's making huge threats against me. 2 mediums on the table and pretty much a complete set of breakers. He can get through R&D pretty easily. I do have something to stop him though. It's called Data Raven, and it will definitely limit the number of runs he can make each turn. So he has to only make 2 runs and then use the last 2 clicks to clear tags if he doesn't want to get scorched out. And it doesn't seem like he's running Plascretes, so that's good. I decided to continue icing up R&D because obviously I don't want to get medium ducked to death in one turn. That would be a very silly way to lose the game. So yeah, those mediums on the table are really, really threatening. And with the rest of his breaker suite out, my R&D is actually completely porous. I mean, it's all sentries which will tax his overmind, but there's no stopping him from checking R&D 4 times in one turn and winning the game outright, especially since he has really 1 build scored. So I'm very, very worried about that. Thankfully, he didn't draw the Astro Script that I just drew. I saw the Taurus. It's pretty useless here. It will just snipe off his Desperado, but that means that he'll have to trash 1 program. I like that. So that's going on archives. Although he will still clear it with Overmind. Overmind is so strong. Well, at least that will deter him from making security testing runs now. So now I just need to worry about R&D. It's still porous. That's a huge problem. And he has more than enough money to allow me to trace through everything actually. He can just let me get the Snoop trace off, even the Data Raven trace off, and I won't be able to beat his credit pool. That's the problem with letting the runner go out of hand with money. I always tell myself with this deck, I'm good so long as the runner does not land a Siphon on me. The problem is, he didn't need a Siphon. He just needed to run archives multiple times with security testing, and he really grew out of hand with 3 credits and a click for 3 credits and a card per click. So yes, huge mistake to not dedicate some early eyes onto archives. I mean, the Siphon protection early on was pretty important, but on the same token, yeah, I really shouldn't be focused on creating a remote as the core, especially with this kind of deck. My deck is actually meant to prevent central runs. Chilo City Grid can be installed on centrals, and it works so well because if I seal the runner off from my centrals and they have no way to make money quickly without making successful runs, they will eventually start face planting into all sorts of traces that I can make, and this will cause them to take tags from Chilo City Grid. Now he makes a very questionable move here. He uses an inside job to redraw 1 card and get 3 credits, 2 of which he spent on playing the inside job itself. Well, he gets 1 extra credit for being 10, but that was a very interesting choice by him. Yeah, I wouldn't do that, but I would save my inside job for the remote, obviously, but clearly he has other plans. Whatever. I'm very tempted to score the Astro Script here, but, well, not much point is there. With his Overmind, he can easily break through my server, and I don't want him to get to 4 points that easily, so I dump the NAPD into the remote because that's the only card left that I can possibly dump. And he throws the account Siphon. Now, Data Raven. Good luck with that. What I'm really worried about here is the double account Siphon, which he can clearly do with same old thing. That will put me on a very poor credit standing. But as long as I can click up to credits and he tag floats, he's going to be in trouble. So he chooses to take the tag and allows me to get the trace off. Although now that I think about it, getting a trace off means nothing because he can beat the trace any day with his large credit pool. So of course he'll let me trace. He'll save the Overmind token for more important stuff. But what comes as a real surprise here is that he doesn't reinforce his link, which really gets me thinking. Well, if I'm running Data Raven, clearly he knows I'm running either Psychographics or Scorched Earth. He must be prepared to deal with that consequence. So, yeah, he is going all in on the Siphon recursion, and that is pretty painful. He will definitely look to account Siphon me again in the same turn, and I wasn't able to stop it. Well, no piece of ice would have stopped it with his gigantic economy and overmind. There's nothing I can do to stop that. It all came down to, once again, I let him through archives way too many times. He got set up way too fast, and yeah, it's all my fault. Had there been a single piece of ice on archives much earlier, things would have been different. Anyway, well, things just took a turn for the worse. I just got banned. So it's pretty much game over here. With at least 2 more account siphons ready to go, and a same old thing on the table, and who knows how many more same old things in his deck, he is going to rampage all over my R&D with 2 mediums. This is his strategy. Am I not foolish for not foreseeing this earlier? I guess I mean, in hindsight, it's 2020. It's always very easy to say, well, you definitely should have saw this coming. And I really should have. This was a very obvious play. Why would someone install mediums, like 2 mediums for that matter, and not make a single run on R&D, leaving all your eyes unrest? What did you think he was going to do? It's so blatantly obvious, and yet I dedicate my eyes to our archives too late and leave R&D so exposed. My HQ so exposed with a Taurus Quandary and a Data Raven, which he didn't know of, thinking that my Data Raven would be all that I needed to hold him in his tracks. That was clearly not the case, and I definitely paid for it. This is definitely not a new deck archetype. Siphon into Vamp is a very common thing. I wouldn't say very common, but it has been around for ages. In fact, probably since the cause. I'm not very sure, but it has been around for a very, very long time, and I'm still falling for this old trick. I feel so stupid. Yep, I definitely should have saw this coming, and what could I have done to prevent it, as I mentioned? Protect archives earlier, put more eyes on HQ, basically seal off the centrals. You know he's going to make money by playing run events, so make sure he doesn't play run events. Duh. I don't need to score agendas, I just need to place a Chilo City grid on each central server and starve him of money while gaining a lot myself. I guess my intention was to get an early Melange mining comp off should I draw into one, but a single Chilo City grid protected by a wraparound, that's not going to do anything. It's not even going to waste his time. I'll just rest the wraparound, he just bounces off, and he continues on his merry day. So I made a huge mistake by dedicating so many resources to my remote, which never ever mattered. There's an NAPD sitting there. He doesn't care. He probably couldn't care less if it was an Astro script. All he needed to do was to decrypt my archives and win the game. Stupid, yes. What can I say? I got massively outplayed, and I read him wrongly the entire game. I forgot, or I completely neglected the fact that he was possibly playing security testing, which is a very efficient credit gaining mechanism for criminals nowadays, and that left my archives exposed. Then I completely didn't realize that he was going to siphon bank me. So HQ was far too exposed when the time was right for him to strike. And of course, look at how much ice was wasted on R&D. I spent so much effort defending against the 2 mediums, but it was all for naught. So, very disappointing game for me. It's not just the 0-7 scoreline. This deck is go big or go home, really. The scoreline is pretty much either 0-7 or 7-0, because if I get an early flatline off, I'm going to win. If I don't, and the runner is playing carefully, there is no reason why the runner would lose. So, yeah. poor play. What more can I say? But not to take anything away from him, he played a very solid strat, and most importantly, he abused the way I was thinking. He threw the mediums out early to make me scramble into icing out R&D, leaving my other servers vulnerable. That is good play. So I never got to play my Petri dishes, primary transmission dish, which never came up. He just trashed them from my R&D when he was multi-accessing. That is the core of this deck, and I never got to see it play. Oh well, I have a second game with this guy where we switch sides. Do tune in for that. I promise it's an epic game.